Mr. Elzinga. Thank you very much for your time today.
Good morning. Thank you so much. I normally come to Hong Kong at least once or twice a year, and it's been quite sad not to be able to travel in the last year. So it's great to be able to communicate in this medium.
Well, this is one of the most anticipated webinar of our parents, simply because you have such a great background and you are the new head at Sevenoaks. So I look forward to having this chit chat with you, and please feel free to share anything regarding the school and the pedagogies at Sevenoaks. So Mr. Elzinga, maybe just to start, give us a brief introduction of yourself and your background, and how have you found the first year at Sevenoaks amidst COVID?
Yeah, so just a brief introduction about myself. I'm a dual citizen. I'm British and American. So I grew up in the United States and studied as an undergraduate at Harvard University, and then I won a scholarship and came to the University of Oxford in the UK. So I've studied at both the US and the UK, which gives me a helpful perspective because many of our students are interested in higher education in the UK and the US. I've been teaching for more than 20 years in the UK. I've taught at single-sex schools, at co-ed schools, at day schools, and at boarding schools. And it's a great privilege now in the course of this academic year to have taken over as headmaster of Sevenoaks School. We are fully coeducational from 11 to 18 with boarding from 13 to 18. And we have 1,200 students in total, so 800 day students, 400 boarders. It's a lively and rich community, as I'll tell you more about.
Well, Sevenoaks couldn't find a better headmaster with both Harvard and Oxford in one.
Thank you. That's very kind. Of course, there's much more to being a good teacher and a headmaster than where you go to but it's a good start.
Yeah. So the past year must have been quite challenging with COVID, quite unprecedented. How has the situation been at Sevenoaks, especially given you have so many students from all different nationalities and day and boarding as well? What kind of measures have been put in place and to ensure safety of the students?
The COVID-19 pandemic has demanded that institutions like us revise our practice really quickly, effectively, and efficiently. And from the very beginning, I've tried to be kind and accommodating to staff and students and acknowledge that this has been a very scary time for many of us, and people have different risk tolerances. And so we've had to make adjustments. Overall, over the course of the past year, I'm very proud and pleased about the way in which Sevenoaks has responded. Of course, our school was closed when it was required under UK government national lockdown, but otherwise we've had our site open and we've avoided having any outbreaks on campus. Now, of course, I think this is partly good fortune. I can't take all the credit, but I'm also confident that our success during the pandemic is linked to many precautions that we put in place. For example, when the school opened in September 2020, after the first lockdown in the summer of 2020, we tested all of our students and staff before they returned to campus. And this helped us to ensure that we did not have any positive cases that would have led to an outbreak right as the school reopened. And I was watching around the world, schools and universities reopening and then suddenly having to close again. And we wanted to avoid that. It was also to reassure our community, our town in Sevenoaks. We have students from 45 different countries. And with everyone coming in at once from all these different flights around the world, we wanted to reassure the community. So it was great that we had that. And as you may be aware, in the UK, the practice of mass testing in schools only came in March 2021. So we were 7 months ahead of the curve and testing everyone as the school reopened. Also in September, in my first month as headmaster, I made the decision to buy 2 PCR testing machines from the University of Cambridge. These were fully accredited and actually being used across the country by the NHS. I made sure the NHS didn't need any more, but the extra ones we were able to buy. And at that point in the pandemic, access to testing was very limited in the UK. So it was really helpful to have our own testing machines. It meant anyone displaying symptoms, we could test them quickly and isolate if necessary, decide whether or not they had COVID-19, instead of sending that whole year group home for several days while we waited. We also initiated an extremely enhanced cleaning regime with regular cleanings and deep cleans every night. As you would expect, we did what everyone's doing. We had face coverings, regular washing of hands. We actually installed 500 hand sanitizer stations around the school, physical distancing, ventilating rooms, perspex screens, for a music lesson room that's also ventilated. So in so many ways, I think we were exemplary in our response. And I know that students, parents, and staff were particularly delighted that as long as we were able to be open, we were open, and we were able to isolate any cases. And then finally, I'd just say now that the school's open, we are testing all of our students and staff twice a week. We still have our own testing machines and a separate quarantine facility here on site if we need it. And I think the final point I'd make is it's worth highlighting that with the success of the vaccination program in the UK and the infection rate in the UK being so low, especially around Sevenoaks in the southeast of England, we're really hopeful now that normal education has resumed for good.
Yeah, that's amazing that you're able to contain that, very safe bubble, given you have so many day students who I'm sure they would be, roaming around a little bit more than just confined to boarding, and all these different nationalities are traveling back to school, and with a zero outbreak. That's very impressive indeed. So I've heard about Sevenoaks' online provision. You've always had a pretty strong online provision, and this epidemic has showcased that. Do you see any, having said that, a lot of students do prefer in-person teaching and find online less effective. Has the school seen any learning gap among students? And if so, is there any provision in place to help those in need to bridge these gaps?
We've been quite fortunate here in that we have a great IT setup and very well-trained staff, and most of our students had access to the IT they needed as well. So when the pandemic first came to the UK in March 2020 and the school was locked down, we very quickly switched to online learning. And when our school site was closed, our online provision was excellent. And thus far, we've not identified any learning gaps in our students' education. In some ways, it was a bit more boring. You just went straight through the syllabus and the content. But what's interesting is our students kept up with their syllabuses, with the curriculum, with GCSE and the IB, whilst nationally, because not everyone had access to IT, the content in the exams has been reduced. So actually, in some ways, our students, it's almost embarrassing, our students are at a big advantage because they've had a good education throughout the pandemic, and any exams they have to take this year, even next year, the content's reduced, and they're very well prepared. Now, for students who might be joining us from overseas or who might be new to the school and do have some learning gaps, at Sevenoaks, we offer Easter revision courses during the Easter holidays. We offer a summer school, and we also offer a pre-IB course for students who might be joining us in the sixth form in the summer before they join. So, in addition to our thorough and effective provision throughout term time, we have these optional courses during the holidays where students can engage with teaching from Sevenoaks and bridge any gaps in learning.
So that's very interesting. So students can either join the summer program prior to them going to Sevenoaks, or they can actually just join the summer program as a pre-taster, right? That's right.
So it's good to have these. Our admissions process is pretty thorough, so we know we're quite selective. So the students that come here will be very bright and be ready to do well. But if parents are concerned about the learning gaps, there are these optional courses over Easter or over the summer every year.
So beyond Sevenoaks being very reputable as the top IB school worldwide, and knowing that your background, you have actually brought IB into your previous schools, what are the key success factors for Sevenoaks to be such a successful IB school?
In some ways, it helps that the IB is the best education in the world for 16 to 18-year-olds. So it's if you take that curriculum and you teach it really well, then the success follows almost by the philosophy of the IB. I think what many people don't know about the IB is that it was created originally in Switzerland by some international schools in Geneva. And some educators there said they wanted to develop the best education in the world to prepare students to go on to competitive universities. And they were thinking in Europe and North America initially. But of course, the IB is now taught in 150 countries and recognized all around the world. And the great thing about the IB is it's been taught now for more than 50 years, and it's changed very little. So everyone studies 6 subjects. Everyone does those core subjects of English, maths, and a science, and then everyone does another language. And so that breadth and rounded education, it makes it really unique. Why are we so successful at Sevenoaks? I think partly because we've taught it for a long time. So the IB is just over 50 years old, and we've taught it for more than 40 years. So we've been able to hone our expertise. We also have a large cohort. Every year we have more than 200 students in a year group doing the IB. So we're one of the larger IB schools in the world. And that means because we have all those students, we're able to offer a range of subjects at higher level and standard level. And we've really learned how to become experts for all different students. And I think it also helps that, to be really honest, it helps that we've got such great students. We're very selective. We have about 4 or 5 applicants per place for students joining us at all entry points, 11 plus, 13 plus, and for the sixth form. And because we have such a good admissions process, we get some really aspirational, ambitious, bright, hardworking, diligent, talented students here who actually learn from each other. And there's something really great about being in a classroom where you've got a strong teacher who knows what they're teaching you, but also you're learning from the other students around you, students from different countries, more than 45 different countries here, but they're all bright and ambitious. And there's a special ethos here at the school, and we're very proud to be an IB school and delighted that we've been so successful in teaching that qualification.
So some parents applying at the age of, or applying for their children at the age of 12, 13, how do they know whether IB is the right curriculum for them down the line? Or how does the school assess these applicants and know that they are suitable students to do the IB? It's quite a demanding curriculum as well. You have to be good at both humanities and sciences.
I would just push back a little bit there and caveat and say that, the IB is accessible to a range of students from a range of abilities. To study the IB at a top school like this, yes, we teach it at a faster pace because most of our students are ready for that. And I think our admissions assessment program at every entry point makes sure that the students who come here are capable of studying the IB and studying it in the context in which we teach it in a fast-paced environment. But other students who still really want to do the IB, but Sevenoaks might not be the right fit for them, they could go to another school where the IB would still be accessible for them. I would say it's not about, so for me, anyone could do the IB, just in the same way anyone can do maths, anyone can learn a foreign language, you just have to work hard at it. And some people might have to take more time or work harder than others. But the great thing about the IB is a good education, a well-educated person will be someone who understands the interdisciplinary nature of academia, who is able to cross-reference different subjects. Now, I'm partly influenced by the liberal arts tradition of my undergraduate experience at Harvard, where the expectation at Harvard was that every student would know a little bit of everything, but something well. So you study there for 4 years, but only 2 of the years are really focused in one subject. The rest of the time, you explore and study different things. For example, I read every Shakespeare play, even though I was doing a degree in philosophy. I studied jazz music and still am an expert in jazz music. I studied Spanish to a very high level, even though that wasn't part of my philosophy degree. So just that rounded education is part of that liberal arts tradition. And it's very much about what the IB is around. So I think for someone to say the IB is not right for someone, what I would probably say instead is that certain students know exactly what they want to do and want to give up different subjects early on. So if you know that you only want to do in the sixth form maths, chemistry, biology, and physics, and you don't want to do a language, you don't want to do any arts, you don't want to do any humanities, then yeah, A level is a good route to do that. But I still don't think you would be as well educated as if you, because in the IB, you could do maths and 2 sciences and then still have the opportunity to do some arts, do some humanities. And it's the same for someone who wants to study the humanities or art or history of art or geography. Actually, it's quite good to know some maths and it's quite good to know some science, and that will inform your thinking there. And most professions involve many different aspects. Even if you're an artist, you might have to do your own accounts. I think that's the beauty of the IB, is that it creates a broad, well-rounded, educated person.
That's a very positive perspective and really gives parents in Hong Kong food for thought. Is a difference between fixed mentality versus growth mentality. And I really do see IB students go through a lot of growth through the process. In particular, Sevenoaks, we've seen students at Sevenoaks really flourishing as a person with great personality just because the extracurricular activity provision is so broad. So what would you say beyond the IB curriculum would be your unique selling points for Sevenoaks?
Well, yeah, Sevenoaks is a unique school. So we were founded in 1432. So we enjoy the distinction of being one of the UK's oldest schools. And we do have some very old traditional listed buildings here, which a lot of people coming to the UK, coming to Great Britain, they like to see those beautiful old brick and stone buildings. However, we also have a tradition of innovation and excellence. And that's helped us to develop as one of the best co-educational day schools in the country and with a global reputation. I think that co-educational bit is very important. So we were one of the first independent schools in the UK to go co-educational almost 50 years ago. And we are fully 50-50. We are 50% boys and girls at each entry point in each year group and in terms of our day and boarders. So it's a very consistent split. Some schools say they're co-ed, but they only have a third girls or something, but we're really 50-50. If you look at some league tables in the UK, there are actually very few co-educational schools at the top. One league table in the Sunday Times here in the course of this year had only 3 co-educational schools in the top 50 schools. But for a lot of families these days, especially co-educational is the norm in most countries. There are very few places where single-sex education still happens. And for a lot of families coming from overseas, if you want co-ed, then we're a top school for that. I've already mentioned the IB diploma, but I think it is significant that in addition to be co-ed, we're one of the top IB diploma schools in the world. And I just do not think that A-levels offer that same rounded education, the breadth of education, as well as the opportunities to be involved in creativity, action, and service. And then there's kind of those two things coming together, the co-ed aspect and the IB aspect. As one of the top IB schools in the world and a top co-ed school, we're uniquely attractive to students from overseas. And the way that plays out is we make sure we don't have too many students from one specific country. We have a very diverse range of students. So 46 different nationalities studying in the school at the moment. And this means that in lessons, in the boarding houses, the students are just always meeting people from different countries and with different backgrounds. And we have a great ethos here of tolerance and open-mindedness and learning about other cultures and celebrating different religious festivals or Chinese New Year. And these things happen in the boarding house and amongst our school community. I think one other unique aspect of Sevenoaks that's different from other schools is we have a long tradition of doing service and charity work with the local community. And we promote the core values of being a responsible citizen across the time at Sevenoaks. I tell the students often that coming to a school like this is a great privilege, but with that privilege comes a responsibility. And I want to create responsible citizens who appreciate the opportunities that they have and also have a sense of duty that they want to make the world a better place. So we've got students who are principled and compassionate and ready for leadership in today's world.
Yeah, I see the co-curricular provision focuses on service and also an aspect of entrepreneurship. How enterprising are Sevenoaks students?
I will answer that directly, but just to say first, I think what's great about the co-curricular program here is we have something for everyone. So we have a really dynamic and lively sports program, a gorgeous swimming pool, double sports hall. We have indoor and outdoor tennis courts. We have our athletics track. We have one of the top sailing teams in the country. In fact, in recent years, our A team won the national championship and our B team finished runner-up. So there are so many different opportunities for students to get involved in sport here, be it basketball or badminton or just going to the gym. Or we're right next to a 1,000-acre medieval deer park, Knoll Park. It's one of the most beautiful parks in the country with no cars in it. And you can just go for a run or a walk and get some fresh air there. So we actually have, because we're outside of London next to all this outdoor space, we have very low pollution levels. So it's a great place for physical activity. We also really champion the creative arts. And we've got a fantastic drama department with our own theater and 2 different drama studios, and then wonderful music provision with a 500-seat kind of award-winning auditorium and a range of practice rooms and really top teachers. Many of our top musicians here go on to study music at a top university or even a Royal College here in London. And then beyond the sport and the drama and the music, we also have the Duke of Edinburgh scheme. So many students go out and do expeditions and earn those qualifications. We also have a combined cadet force. So some of the students here get involved in the Army or the Navy or the Air Force and just enjoy learning from those military traditions. But then again, beyond that, we do have science clubs. We have a sustainability committee, and we have Model United Nations, so then the students travel around in delegations. We have debating, and we also have opportunities to be involved in entrepreneur and competitions, be it maths competitions or economics competitions. In fact, one of our group of female students won a national competition for their idea. It was kind of a Dragon's Den idea where they go in front of a panel and present their business case. I think all of those things I listed, no student can do all of those things. I think we're a big school and having the range of opportunities, the point is that everyone will find something that will help to build their confidence, their self-esteem, help them to make friends. And I really believe that the co-curricular nurtures skills that you can't quite put in league tables or a spreadsheet. Skills like empathy, collaboration, teamwork, communication skills, resilience, problem solving, organization, and leadership. It's really, I go so far as to say that what happens outside the classroom can be as important as part of the education here as what goes on inside the classroom.
Yeah, definitely can feel the dynamic environment of Sevenoaks just by listening to you describing all the co-curricular provisions. As you said, these are really life skills that students are nurturing along the way. Parents in Hong Kong are relatively practical. They think the next step is university destination.
Absolutely.
And we've heard some news and in Hong Kong that the top institutions such as Oxford and even top universities in general in the UK are extending contextualized offers or having more preference recruiting from state schools, which is great. The philosophy of equality definitely should be promoted. But how does it then impact independent schools and specifically Sevenoaks? Have you seen any changes to university statistics?
Okay, so I think there is some truth to what you're saying about contextual admissions and universities here trying to widen access and make sure students from a range of backgrounds attend. And I think that is right for the universities to do. However, as an overseas parent, I would not be concerned about university admissions in the UK, because given the way the funding works here, students from the UK, there's some government funding to the university for that, and so the fees are limited. Whereas overseas parents pay international fees, and those fees are higher, and that means the universities actually receive more money for international students than they do for UK students. So in my time, looking at this over recent years, this has actually led to an increase in the number of international students joining UK universities. And our own analysis here at Sevenoaks even shows that international students are highly successful in earning places at the most competitive universities. And sometimes it even seems, and we can't prove this, but sometimes it seems that overseas students are even more successful than UK students because the universities seem to be a little bit biased in favor of them. Now, in the case of Oxford and Cambridge, which people often ask about, in particular, these universities have focused on widening their access. Given for a long time, the majority of students at Oxford and Cambridge went to independent schools or private schools. But if you think about this statistic, in the UK, only 7% of students attend independent schools. But even right now at Oxford and Cambridge, 30 to 40% of the students there went to independent schools. So it's probably right that Oxford and Cambridge are trying to have more students from state schools. However, those statistics show that if you're at an independent school, you are disproportionately represented at Oxford and Cambridge, which means you have a much stronger chance of going to Oxford and Cambridge from an independent school. And beyond the question of just higher education, although I accept parents are very pragmatic about that, I do think there's a distinct advantage of coming to an independent school in the UK. And that, if you refer back to my previous answer about how strong our co-curriculum is, just the wealth of opportunities outside of the classroom really is a great learning experience. And as I've said previously, talking about the IB, the best education is a broad and rounded one. But at the end of the day, if the parents really want to see our university places, we proudly publish a full report every year on our website. So just go to Sevenoaks School and look for the university, the leavers destinations, and I think you'll be very impressed with where our students go to, both in the UK and Europe and the North America and also in the Far East.
Yes, full transparency we see on the website. And also increasingly more students and a lot of success cases from Sevenoaks into US universities.
Yeah, we find, so across the country, only about 5% of students from independent schools go to the US or overseas. And here it's about 20%.
Wow.
And so it's about 1 in 5 of our students, and many more than that apply. I'd say it's probably 2 in 5 of our students actually apply to the US, and then 1 in 5 actually would go. So we have a very strong program set up here to prepare students to take the SATs or ACTs and to support them in those additional essays, because in some ways, the broad education, the rounded education with lots of co-curriculars that you get at a school like Sevenoaks is actually better preparation for the US university. Well, at least in admissions context, the US universities want to see everything that you do beyond the classroom, whereas UK universities are much more focused just on academics. But no, we have a great provision here to support students going to universities beyond the UK and specifically in the North America.
A very interesting trend. Another macro trend that parents are also asking about is Brexit. It seems as though COVID has overtaken the popularity of people discussing Brexit, but still, I'm sure it has impacts on different industries and also on education. Do you see any implication on tertiary education or even secondary education? What's your thoughts about post-Brexit world?
If I could just say as a starting point, it's a fact that the press likes to run negative stories. And news headlines, the big headlines are negative ones, not positive ones, right? And so Brexit has been very divisive and offered numerous angles for negative publicity from the point of view of business or travel or education or just about any aspect of society. Now, I won't get into the politics of Brexit. My views aside, I did say from the very beginning that whatever happened with Brexit, the UK is the 5th largest economy in the world, and that would not change significantly, and it hasn't. We've gone through Brexit, we've actually done it now, and we're still the 5th largest economy in the world. And even after Brexit's taken place, we remain really successful and large, strong in international trade, strong in international relations. And I don't think ultimately things will change that much for most people. That's slightly different for some of you citizens. Now, Sevenoaks School, we're on the outskirts of London, we're close to airports. London remains an international, cosmopolitan, highly attractive city, an international hub for finance, for technology, for the arts, for many other industries. And international students continue to make up a significant proportion of independent schools here and at UK universities. And I'm quite confident that as the dust settles after Brexit, the press will get bored with it and they will stop fear-mongering, and people from the EU and North America and Hong Kong and China and the Far East will still appreciate the opportunity of coming to UK schools and universities. And in fact, as far as I understand, coming to the UK from Hong Kong has not changed at all because of Brexit. It's only affected EU citizens. So it's been a disruptive time, but I think it's almost over. And as normality resumes, hopefully that will reassure people that it will be straightforward to come and study in the UK.
Great, very encouraging. And the pound is probably going to go up. So parents should just hedge themselves and buy some pound now.
I'm not qualified to give financial advice.
Yeah, actually, when I went to boarding school many years ago, I remember the pound was something at like 14, 16. So now at 10 plus is a really good deal. So Mr. Alsinger, also, given this is your first year and former head Dr. Ricks was at Sevenoaks for many, many years, 17, I think. What is your vision for Sevenoaks in the coming 5, 10, 17 years at the school?
Thanks for asking that. I know many parents are keen when they meet a new head to know what's the new head going to do. I can answer that. There are 3 parts to my vision, and this will be published formally in the months ahead, but you're getting a preview now of my strategic vision for the school going forward. I'd say, first of all, our 600th anniversary is 2032. So our strategic vision will really be focused on that year, building up to 2032, and what do we want to achieve in this final decade before we reach our 600th anniversary of our foundation. The first thing that I would like to do at the school is to widen access to the school to more students from a range of socioeconomic backgrounds. Sevenoaks was founded by an orphan. So William Sevenoak, our founder, was literally found on the streets as an abandoned infant as a child. He was raised by a local councillor, went on to be incredibly successful and was the Lord Mayor of London and an MP for London and a very successful merchant. And he appreciated that he experienced social mobility from the most extreme, almost an abandoned child to being a very successful figure in society at his time. And he set up this school to support social mobility and for there to be a charitable place in Sevenoaks where people could get educated, where students could get educated. And this was long before the government set up schools across the country, so it was really a unique charitable thing. And I don't think our founder would want us to be a school that was only for the super elite, super wealthy. He would want us to be a school that still is supporting social mobility in society. So one of my big aims over the next decade is to raise money for an endowment. We're an old school and we're a successful school. We don't have a big foundation. So I'd like to raise money for an endowment so that would allow us to have a kind of what sometimes is called at American universities a needs-blind admissions process. So anyone could apply to Sevenoaks, and if they're good enough to get in, we will make sure that they can come regardless of their family's ability to pay. And I'll just add a final point that's personal for me as well, because I was a bursary boy. I grew up on a small farm in America, and I was the first student from my school to ever go to Harvard. And my father grew apples, and he's joked that in 40 years of running an apple orchard, he never grew enough apples to pay for Harvard. The generous financial aid package made that possible, and then I won a scholarship to Oxford. So I know that education opens doors and the transformative power, and I want that to be part of the Sevenoaks experience.
That's really
That's
a personal calling, a personal calling.
Yeah. The second thing I would say is that Sevenoaks has been leading in many ways. We're one of the first top schools to go co-ed, one of the first schools to adopt the IB, one of the first schools to introduce service and charity work into our curriculum. And I would also like us to now lead the way in sustainability. I would like us to go to be carbon neutral, possibly even carbon negative by 2032. And not just do that as a marketing thing, but actually work with, and I'm partnering with an external organization, a consulting group, an international firm that can help provide a roadmap for schools that other schools could then follow. I think many schools are talking about offering bursaries or doing charity work, but I don't think enough schools are talking about climate change right now. And the reality is, we're a big organization with 1,200 students and 500 staff and a lot of buildings, and we have a big carbon footprint right now. And that focus on sustainability will be a second aspect of my plan for 2032, but not just for Sevenoaks, but try to lead the way and offer guidance to other schools on how to do that. And then finally, I'm going to just stay focused on the Sevenoaks education. We offer a really good education here, one of the best educations in the world, with the IB, but also in the years lower down, with the academics, with the co-curricular, with our pastoral care. You know, well-being, mental health, pastoral care is so important, because if your son or daughter comes here and they're not happy, then how can they even focus on achieving in their exams or in their co-curriculars or thinking about a university application? So we need to look after the pastoral care of our students. So that final bit for me, it's not going to be a revolution. I think the Sevenoaks education is very special and excellent as it is. But I think we need to keep looking for marginal gains, and I don't want to do other big strategic things and lose sight of just how wonderful the student experience is here.
Well, it sounds like you have a really busy decade upcoming, and I'm sure a very successful one as well. But the very, very last question, and I'm sure probably the most interested question by parents would be, Sevenoaks is a great school. We know how selective it is, especially since you do have a quota by region. What do you look for in prospective students, and how do you think they should prepare themselves for a school like Sevenoaks?
I would say it's actually quite simple in some ways, right? I would say to the students to work hard in school, be the best student that they can be. And Sevenoaks isn't the right place for everyone, but that's okay too, because there are a lot of great schools in the UK. And if you don't come to Sevenoaks, there are a lot of other great schools that they could go to. But I think work hard and do your best so that you can go on to the best school and the best university and open doors for your future. But I would also encourage families to continue to stay involved in those co-curricular pursuits. I have interviewed students from Hong Kong in the past who say, oh, I used to swim, or I used to sail, or I used to do badminton, or I used to play the piano or the trumpet, but I don't do that anymore because now I just have tutoring in maths. And that's a great shame. As I said earlier, and part of our education here is a broad education that develops different areas of the pupils, because it's not just their exam results, it's those interpersonal skills, it's the resilience, it's the teamwork, it's collaboration. And sometimes it can be very good to take a break from academic work and go and do some music or some art, or be involved in debating. So keep those, so I'd say academics, keep the co-curriculars involved. And then finally, what we're looking for here are students who are going to both take advantage of the opportunities here, but also make contributions. We want students who are going to come and, you know, be a good roommate, be the person who's helping to provoke an interesting discussion in their lesson about, or when a speaker comes here, they're going to be a student who asks an interesting question. And I think more than anything, I want students to appreciate the opportunity that they'd have here and make the most of every day. I regularly say to the students here, carpe diem, which in Latin means seize the day. Just make the most of every day. And when we meet students who have that real energy and drive to enjoy the day and make the most of it and be a good friend and a good student and a good contributor, those are really attractive students for us.
And such mindset will last a lifetime. And I'm so impressed because I really do see a perfect mix of British and American education philosophy in your strategy in driving the school forward. So thank you so much, Ms. Eldinger, for your time today. I shall let you go back to your very busy schedule at the very beginning of the term. And we look forward to speaking to you again in the future.
Well, no, thank you for creating this opportunity. I'm very conscious that travel between Hong Kong and the UK right now remains difficult with different travel restrictions, but I'm really hopeful that we can welcome many prospective families here, and that in the not too distant future, I'll be able to come to Hong Kong and meet families too. But in the absence of that, I'm really grateful for this webinar opportunity and the chance to get our message out there. So thank you so much for your time, and goodbye everyone for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.